Marianne, if that was you, that was excellent. You took my cue very quickly and very appropriately. I wanted to welcome everyone to the call today. How are we doing? Any thumbs ups? Anybody want to write how we're doing? This is Tuesday. Tuesday is usually a very interesting day. It's either you're doing good or your week has already started going to hell. So whichever one it is, I hope everyone is doing okay. How are we doing? Okay, I see some good thumbs ups. Where are the people who don't usually chime in? Can we get some thumbs ups from you? All is good, Mohammed. Yeah, thank you. Okay. All right. We good. Gideon. All right. Very cold in the South. You need to stop saying, where is the South? Which South? Do you mean like on the Arctic? Because you're not talking about Africa. No. South Africa, I don't give you guys, I'd never give you the benefit of the doubt when it comes to cold. But if you say it's that way, Gideon, then we'll take it, right? But I want to first welcome everyone to the call. And we have a really very, I'll say in the context of the conversations we've been having so far, let me make sure my mic is appropriately mic'd. Hold on, okay. So in the context of the conversations we've been having so far about really what problem are you solving? And also who are you solving it for? The conversation today is going to be really around those two really key things, right? Especially on who are you solving these problems for, why it is important for you to do the work and make sure that you're addressing the right segments, you're addressing the right markets. Many of you have pitched and you've talked about your total addressable markets. You've talked about your serviceable addressable markets and your share of market, the markets that you're going to get. Well, we have a guest that will keep us very honest about how we look at our customer segments, especially the female side, the gender aspects of how you look at your customer segments. So, Tolulope Babajide is somebody, I just met her last week and we clicked very quickly because we vibed on this concept of the women and the female market as a key audience when you're doing your customer discovery or product discovery. In many cases, we find that one of the reasons why many of our businesses struggle is because somehow these organizations, these ventures, the discovery process tends to find a way to not necessarily pay as much attention to the women as they should. And Tolulope is here to make sure that you guys don't do that. That's our job, is to make sure we speak to that. So Tolulope, before I introduce you, let me just say welcome everyone. And you guys can see in the chat that one of my former MBAs is actually on this call, Njideka Nwabweze, who took a course with me about 3 years ago. So it's good to see her here. So welcome, Njideka, and hopefully we'll catch up another time. But without any further ado, Tolulope, take it away.
So good afternoon, everyone. It's the afternoon. I'm in Nigeria, Abuja, so it's afternoon here. So good afternoon, everyone. And it's such an honor to be here. BimaLab has been something, risk and resilience insurance has been something that is very dear to my heart. And as a gender expert, it has been one topic that I've always been thinking about. But before I go into all of that, Chidi, we said that we are going to make this very interactive. So this is not just a lecturer lecturing the student, because I know here we have a lot of very knowledgeable people and we just want to have a conversation. We just want to talk. We want to understand what is it when we talk about designing for women, but not just one category of women, but different segments of women. So, but before we go into that, I would like to give a brief introduction about myself. My name is Tolulope Babajide, and I'm the Gender Network Manager at FSD Africa. But I work primarily on the FSD Network Gender Collaborative Program. And this program is to is aimed at providing support to various financial sector deepening organizations in such a way that there is an increased access and usage of financial services by African women. And this is to improve their livelihoods and to improve their lives. And so, why am I here today? Hello, can you hear me? Hello, Chidi, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
We can hear you.
Yeah.
Also, I will start from because it's more of an interactive conversation. I will just start with creating the context around what is the big deal in designing for women and women segments, and then taking it to what is the business case to serving women population? Does it even make a business case? And for a long time, there's been a myth around serving women. A lot of people, a lot of institutions have, come to that conclusion that they don't make profits when they serve women. A lot of people have also come to the conclusions that whenever you're serving women, it has to be concessionary. But these are myths, and we want to demystify these myths today. And of course, it's also to have these very interactive conversations, engagements with every one of us on this call. In the sense, we want to know, do you currently serve women within the populations that you have? Have you ever considered serving women demographics? And do you even consider women segments profitable? And how well do you know the women that you currently serve in situations where you serve women? And thanks, before I go into all of these, I want to also appreciate Tonya, Elias, Titles, Chidi. They've been very supportive. And most importantly, I want to appreciate my gender lead, Sophie. She's on the call somewhere. So thank you very much. And so when we talk about serving women, what does that really mean? When we talk about ensuring that women demographics, women segments, various women segments are reached in the insurance context. Do we have anyone that wants to answer to that before I go into the details? And I'm going to be calling names. So because this is interactive, please, I need everyone on this call to be very up and doing. So Adefisayo, when we say you're designing for women segments, what does that mean? Hello, Adefisayo.
Hello, Tolobe. Okay, so I think for me, it will mean questioning women when you are thinking of your product. So like, what kind of products would women want to purchase? How should the product look like for them? So like, you're really considering women when you're developing any product. So just having women at the back of your mind.
Thank you very much. And that is very true. Considering the peculiarities of women when designing a product, thinking about how would this product serve women? How would it get into the hands of women? How comfortable will women be, when it comes to using these products? And just still riding on the introduction, which is our program. Today is one of our commitments to ensuring that gender mainstreaming in financial markets in context of today's insurance is not tokenistic, but rather it's a strategic intentionality to considering the peculiarities of women's segments when designing financial services such as savings, credit, and insurance. Just as I mentioned before, today's topic is innovative insurance, the business case of designing for women's segments. Then, what is the big deal in considering women's segments? Is it profitable enough to design contextualized insurance products and services for women? And this is my business case to you, and I'm presenting my business case before we go into that interactive conversation. According to the global economy, the current population of Africa stands at 1,446,885,000 people. Out of this number, 733,424,000 women are of reproductive age. This consists of 50.17% of the total population. This presents the most compelling argument for you, startup founders, to intentionally consider designing and serving half of Africa's population. The reality of the shocks that we all experience in our daily lives is also another reason why we must consider designing for women's segments. It can be economic and it can be climatic. We've all experienced COVID-19. We've experienced cash crunches at one time or the other. And we've also experienced climate disaster. In the Nigeria where I live, we've experienced flooding, we've experienced droughts, and I know that across Africa, every country have had their own fair share of climate disaster. And also, aside from climate disaster, we've also experienced inflation, we've experienced health scares. And the face of these vulnerabilities, vulnerabilities are women, whether it's a climate disaster or a drought, or whether it's a pandemic, just as we've seen during COVID-19. We've seen women being mostly affected by these shocks. During COVID-19, for example, women SMEs, women-owned businesses were badly hit. Even after the lockdown, millions of women businesses couldn't recover, and most of them had to go moribund. And all of this points to the urgency to mainstream gender into insurance. Another reason why every of the startup founder on this course should consider mainstreaming gender into the design of their products and services is also because in Africa, majority of the women, particularly speaking to the startup founders that are into agricultural insurance now, majority of women
Did we lose Tolu? Is it just me?
Yeah, I think we lost her.
Okay. So while we wait for her to get back, because I think that's basically what we'll do, is I would like to, for you, so go ahead. You got it.
Thank you very much. We've also seen an error in time past in Africa, not just in Africa, I would say globally, where we've had a lot of institutions pull out, pinkish products for women and said, oh, you know what? We've designed this savings product for women. We've designed this insurance product for women. But then why do we still have this persistent exclusion gap, financial exclusion gap in Africa? It's because most of the times institutions, financial service providers design products just for one category of women. Women are not a monolith. And I want to reiterate that women are not a monolith. Women have different categories based on their experiences, based on the opportunities that are available to them. We have various categories of women. We have women that live in urban areas. We have women that live in rural areas. We have women that are smallholder farmers. We have women that are into retail trading. We have women that are educated. We have women that are not educated. We have women that are in 9-to-5 jobs. We have women that have SMEs, that have small and businesses. We have women that are into medium and medium businesses. We also have women who are into nano businesses, that is very minute sort of businesses. So the financial needs of these women also differs. And that is where our intentionality as startup founders comes in, for us to be able to identify which of the segment, and it is almost impossible for you as an organization, as a startup founder, as an insurance organization, to design for all women. But the reason why we are here today is to start that conversation about identifying the various segments of women. Who are these women? Where are they? And we cannot do this without you. You understand within the context of the populations that you currently serve. Who are these women? Are they retail traders? Are they smallholder farmers? And that is why we are going to be having this very robust conversation today. But it's just to be able to point to us that there's a market to be served. But are we willing to serve these markets? Are we willing to take the bull by the horn and do what is needed? And the truth also about designing for women's segment is that it doesn't happen by chance. It's something that has to be very strategic. It has to be very intentional, right from how you identify the segments, to understanding the segments, to understanding the pain points of this segment, to understanding what sort of products should I design for this segment? How do I get this product into the hands of the women? How do I get them to use it? How do they become comfortable enough to use this product? And Chidi, we had said that we are going to be calling people out.
Yeah. So let me help with that. Right?
I have a series of questions just before you go on. I have a series of questions. So I just want people to be able to open up. And I've seen the list of all the startup founders, of all the insurers, insurtechs that are in this cohort, but it would be good for people to just also voluntarily just share with us the experiences to serving women, to understanding what is it that they are currently doing, what is it that they intend to do with their current with the existing products and all of that. So over to you, Chidi.
Sure. And, very quickly, I mean, Tolu, I want you to also manage this as you see fit, because this is, you're the speaker. But what I want to do also is to make sure that we ask some provocative questions to start this conversation, right? And the first provocative question I would like to ask the group and yourself, Tolu, is, must I consider women if I'm building a business? What if they're not? What if women are not represented? Let's say their representation in my target segments is so low that it doesn't, that there's an argument that I would make that I can't focus on that market if their representation is not high enough. That, maybe they don't have enough businesses in that market, or maybe they don't index high enough in that market. What is your response to that when a founder says that? Honestly, I don't think there's enough women in my market. What would be your response to that? And I would like to also throw that to the rest of the group.
It's not compulsory to serve. It's not compulsory for your own business to serve women. But what we are putting out to you is a business case that serving women actually makes a lot of profits. And that 50% of the population, either in each of the country where we come from, in Nigeria, we have 50% of women that are, part of that of the population. Likewise, in other demographics in other countries. So no matter how little that population is within the target segments that you currently serve, it's still fair, and that is where gender equality comes in. It's still fair to be able to contextualize your product and service to serve demographic. But okay. I can see IJ raising up hands.
So, hi, good afternoon. It's actually Njideka. I just changed my name to NJ. Which is Njideka for short. How are you there? By the way, to everyone here, Tolu is my very good friend. So I'm excited to join her on this wonderful discussion that she's giving here. And so great to see you again, Chidi. It's quite some time.
Yes.
I'm actually very happy to be here today. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Njideka Nwabweze. I'm actually not a startup. I don't run a startup. I actually still work in an entrepreneurial environment. I work with Sterling and I'm the group head of education. But before my role in Sterling, I was the head of financial inclusion. And I just wanted to share a bit to really answer the question, the provocative question that Chidi threw at everyone. And I think it's a question that we really need to really ask ourselves, because yes, we hear everywhere that there's a business case of, to serving women, but sometimes it's a bit difficult. And I would use one of the products that we brought to the market in 2015. It was called the Better Proposition. It was actually, so from the beginning, because we partnered with Women's World Banking. Women's World Banking is an international NGO. They're focused on building financial products for women, basically, and they're based in New York, and they have other global partners that they also work with. So we partnered with Women's World Banking, and the business case for us at that time was to see how we can come up with a product basically for women, strictly for women. And one of the products that we talked about, which for us at that time had a great business case, was the Esusu product where if you go to a typical market, so for example, let's take Oyinbo, for example, you would find that majority, say in terms of the market size, you would see that I think there are say between 30% women and 70% men. And if you go to other markets in Nigeria, I think you would also have that equation. I'm sorry, not Nigeria, it depends, but I mean, I'm using Lagos, for example. And we created this product. This product was designed for these women. Like when we started, we used women-centered design approach, where we brought them into a room. We had qualitative research, we have quantitative research, we had focus group discussions with them. In fact, they were actually the ones that actually came up with a product name called the Better Proposition. We had several other names, but Better resonated with them because it was sort of progressive. And some of the communications that we came up with, again, was also designed by the women. So I worked in a bank where, for us, innovation is sort of limitless. What we do in the banking sector most times as product managers is to do copy and paste. But this is one product that I knew that we took to the market, and we created that market based on the behavior and the patterns and the preferences of the customers. But when we started the product, like I said, it was intentional. I mean, Tolu talked about intentionality here when we're building products for women. So the product was from the beginning, it was intentionally designed for women, right? And I would like to also use the word by women, because majority of my team members at that time were also women. So we're very empathetic in building that product. But when we launched the product in the market, we noticed that it was also a bit difficult getting the women on board. Why? Because you go to the customers, to the women, and you tell them beautiful. I mean, the product features and benefits were fun. We had a lot of monies because we got some sort of grants from other partners that we had. So we had lots of merchandising materials. We're doing promo, like reward schemes on a regular basis to ensure that we're onboarding these women. But I tell you, we had a huge, lot of resistance from the market. These women sometimes, when you come and you talk to them about this product, they'll tell you, okay, let me think about it. Some of them will say, okay, I need to get home to talk to my either my son or my daughter. I need to talk to my husband before I open the market. But here we are. We go to a man, and the man is saying, oh, I love this product. Open this account for me. I think I want to use it. I think I like it. I think, open this. So right there and then, we're getting almost, a quick response from the men. So at some point, we had to include the men into the, like I said, from the beginning, the product was meant to be strictly women, but because we weren't getting the sort of, despite the fact that, like I said, we did lots of campaign, lots of promos and all of that, but we're getting more men, we're acquiring more men than we're acquiring women, right?
So Njideka,
when we now
wanna,
go to the
Njideka.
transaction side, however, we saw a totally different behavior.
Hello, Njideka.
Yes, please.
Please, thank you very much. I think that has been really very enlightening. And one thing that you said that actually stood out is the going back to the intentionality of designing for women, making sure that women themselves are involved in the design, not designing for them, but designing with them. And that is very important. Not designing for women, but designing with women. And Ujeka will come back to you, but I want to quickly go to Chuko Ma right now.
Okay, thank you very much. Happy to be here, and this is a very, very interesting topic. In my previous work lives, I've actually attempted doing things for women, but this flows through with what Njideka said earlier. And I think I also mentioned it last time to Chidi about the insurance space, and how we have low level of penetration, and especially when you're dealing with the bottom of the pyramid, it now becomes difficult to actually start differentiating products among gender, because the demand or the requests are commoditized, in the sense that they are generic. Everybody needs access to savings. Everybody needs access to, they are financially excluded in the first place. So you definitely have to solve the baseline problem, which is providing some level of financial inclusion, and giving them that breathing room to really get accustomed to engaging with formal financial services before you can now think of differentiating or creating women-centric products. So I just wanted to know that in this space that we are in, where penetration is low, and when you're looking at, we look generally at, the rural or non-urban market majorly, and you find out that you are starting from, scratch. So it's difficult at that point to even start looking for women-centric products. Not like they don't matter, but you need to get them to a certain level of financial service sophistication before you can now branch out and start creating, women-based products. That's just my contribution. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Chukwemeka. And I agree with you. It takes a whole lot of financial literacy. And that is also where financial literacy comes in, for a woman to be able to adopt any kind of insurance. That woman has to be able to understand the cause and effect. Okay, why do I need insurance? What makes me vulnerable? I'm vulnerable because of this particular situation. So how do I how do I make sure that I'm resilient? And this involves a level of behavioral communications for you to be able to get that woman to accept the fact that she's vulnerable, and she will continue to be vulnerable if she's not taking on this sort of measures, and then getting her to be able to use a particular product. But thank you very much. And we want more people to speak up. So I'm going to be name calling. Please forgive me. Gideon, what has been your experience in serving women demographics? Is it very profitable as of now? Is it something that you're still considering? What kind of support will you need to, to design for women if you are considering it?
Okay, thank you for the question. And my product I've been working on hasn't been a gender-targeted product, but looking at, listening to what the conversation we've had today, I am looking at considering such a thing, because the team I have as well, I realize that we also have a lot of male than the female, and if we are to plan anything, we would have to base on that. We have to base on experience we are getting from the women's side of it, because truth be told, I haven't made any targets in terms of gender. So that is what I can say for now, but it's something I'm going to consider. Yeah.
So Chidi, Elias, we have a convert in the room. He's considering 7 women, and we will provide all the support that you need to be able to understand what it means to design for women and for that particular women segment. But quickly, I will go to Catherine. Catherine, have you ever, are you currently serving women? And what sort of women segments are you serving? And also, has it been profitable if you've been serving these women or not? Over to you, Catherine. Hello, Catherine.
Yes, I'm part of the BimaLab team.
Oh, sorry. Okay. But let me go. Okay, let me go. Chidi, can you help me with the names of the founders here so we can?
Yeah, and let me do this. Okay, so I see Jean's hand is up. So Jean, go ahead. But Jean, before you answer the question, let's help you. I want to really get into this, because one of the conversations we've been having, Tolu, is, make sure you do your discovery work. Njideka talked about how they worked with women and talked to women and, designed something women, but the uptake wasn't quite that high, that they had to kind of start looking at men as part of that equation. And so the question, Jean, that I would throw at you also in the context of what Tolu is speaking to is, if you find yourself at a place where your target segments, or let's say your product, is not really getting uptake, right? Do you think the gender equation is part of the issue, or is there more? Do you need to make sure that the gender equation also takes into account who is having the problem and how much of that pain point, right? How much of that pain point is so high that women will absolutely pay or buy the product or exchange some kind of value with you when you have that product in market?
Thanks, Once. Yeah, so I mean, from our experience, I'll first lay down some facts. Once a woman taken up your product, it is sticky, the lifetime value of the product.
We can hardly hear Jen.
Just a minute. Okay, I think this is better.
So we can hardly hear you, Jane. I don't know if
any better.
Yeah, I think it's better. Yeah, please go ahead.
Okay, so I first wanted to start with the facts based on our experience. Once a woman has taken up the product, like right now ours, it is sticky and their churn rate is very low, which means that it takes about, for the lifetime value of the product and all that, we are able to gain some results. And one thing also we realized that most of the women who onboarded onto our services or our products, most of them came in at a later stage. But once they understood the value that we provide to them or to the rest of, because it was not deliberate that this is for women, but it was a generic thing or product. But then we were able to understand, we asked ourselves that why are women actually not uptaking this? Because we have less than 30% of the women uptaking our product. And we're able to understand some of the reasons. Some of them were social norms. Some of them were around infrastructure, because we're delivering our product via mobile and the likes, and majority of them didn't have the mobile. And we just saw that we are the ones who created some of the barriers, or the barriers which are stopping them from accessing, let alone utilizing the product and even getting information on how to get the product. So having understood that, we're able to design some approaches, which include even extending the insurance services to the women on credit, then putting in some incentives, which by peer-to-peer, when one woman has understood and she's been able to uptake it, can she be able to get her peers to uptake, and she's able to get discounts, so even her score goes higher. So we understood sort of what problem they were able to get deep into understanding what the problem, or what challenges, or what the barriers they had, that they were not utilizing some of the products which we thought were actually necessary, especially for them. Then, of course, making sure that we de-risk them and see how they can be able to get consent or information from their husbands with their husband with ease. So the men also were just the barriers themselves, because they thought that, because first of all, some of these women were not educated that much, and they would always go back to their husband to seek consent. So we actually targeted the husbands as well to get the women to be part of this. So educating the husband on what type of woman she would become if she used this and she did this, it also did a good job for us. And it now became sort of an agreed position. And the men would push for them to be a part of this, because also women were given more loans than men, because there is a social understanding and they're most of the time in groups than the men are. So those are some of the things that we looked at, but it came from an understanding of the problem because the uptake was low. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jane. You know, you've provided a lot of insights into how you were able to understand your women's segment, understand the problem, and then being able to be quite innovative about how you then overcome the barriers. You mentioned some, critical, statement was, you were able to leverage social collectives in being, when it comes to women's uptake of insurance. So women's ability to be able to talk to one another when it comes word of mouth, which often exists within the various groups that women are of that they belong to. You also mentioned that men as allies. I think that we have to emphasize that we are not, and what we are advocating is to ensure that we have more men on our side so that women can be, they can have the support of the men, and that is very great. I know that Sophie has some comments. Sophie Mills. Hello, Sophie.
Hey, Tolu. Yeah, thank you. Hi everyone. I work with Tolu, so I've just joined this conversation. It's a real pleasure to listen to you all talking about this with such engagement and with such insights. I'm not able to stay on the call for very much longer, so I just wanted to share some thoughts with you in the hope that that's a useful part of the discussion. The first piece really is around the fact that when Tolu and I are trying to encourage you to think about including women, we're not doing that from a sort of charitable perspective. We really believe that there is a business case here, that there are business opportunities. Of course, from our perspective, we would love InsurTech to reach out to women because we think that women need some of the services that your companies are providing or will be providing. But we honestly feel that there is a business case here, that it does not make sense to not consider women. I also just wanted to make the point that, and again, I feel like I'm reiterating what has already been said in some of these very insightful comments, but when you design for women, and I echo Tolu's comment that women are not a monolith, so I just sort of asterisk that, you're not copy and paste it, the kind of product development that you've been doing. And when you refine these products, you are in fact oftentimes making them more nuanced and more relevant to a lot of men in your market as well. And I'd also just like to encourage you to think about the customer acquisition process, the product design process, the post-sales support process, understanding that women customer segments might not have the same preferences as some male customer segments is going to be a very helpful tool for you to refine both the acquisition and the product design and the post-sales process. So I would encourage you to look at it that way. It's a way of refining the product. I was going to make the point that Jean actually made, which is that we know this from case studies on a lot of financial services, and we've seen it in some of the work that we've been involved in. Women tend to be quite risk averse, and I think it was Jean who was making that point, and maybe one of the earlier commenters around the fact that women need to get permission. And oftentimes it's not a question of getting permission, it's a question of familiarizing themselves. Women are more exposed to fraud. They are more concerned about digital channels than men are. So a lot of this behavior around the customer acquisition journey is women's way of managing that risk. So the acquisition journey may be longer, but as Jean pointed out, they are also more loyal. When you design a product that works for them, they will keep coming back. So we've seen that with financial institutions that we've supported. And I guess just the only other thing that I would want to talk to is the importance of looking at this cohort and understanding whether, you know, Chidi, I think the first question you asked was around what if women are not part of what if there is no demand from women for your product? I would argue that there probably is, but that maybe just is not yet visible to you. But I would also encourage you to think about what kinds of products women need, because that is a vast untapped market. Okay, that's a lot to drop on you guys. Thank you, Tolu, for making some space for me, and I will stop there.
Thank you very much, Sophie and
Yeah.
Chidi. I know that we still have more founders that want to speak, so I will let you, give guidance on that. But
Yeah.
just riding on what Sophie had mentioned, I think it's very important as a business case to serving women. We just need to be able to identify that particular business case for your startup and then support you in being able to, to properly design for this demographic. Chidi?
Yeah, no, so to the founders, we've been talking a lot about customer discovery. And we've also talked a lot about, the problem that you're trying to solve and how you kind of get to a place where you understand the kind of solutions you put out there. Let me ask the founders, just in the context of Tolu's premise and topic today, have you found that maybe you did neglect a significant portion of the market in doing let me say, if you didn't do discovery, do you think that it's entirely possible that the lack of discovery is what is probably, putting you in a position where you've neglected, let's say, for instance, the female part of, or this very important female part of the market? Is that something that you've considered as you go forward, as you look at how do you expand your product, how do you expand the scope of your product? So let me throw that out, and then Tolu, you can add on to that if you feel the need. But that's a question I wanted to ask, because as founders, I understand you have a business to run, and one of the things you don't want people telling you is, "Oh, you know what? You need to consider this market," right? There has to be value there. So, what is your responses to that when I put that question out to you? And we will call names. We will call names. Because this is a quiet group. Tanya told me that they will open up at some point. Yeah, there's some people who have opened up, but some people haven't. So we'll have to call some names. Or anybody? Where's Eric?
Can I go ahead and name names? I think I'm very skilled.
Yeah, I called Eric. I'll call Eric and yeah, where's Eric?
Okay.
What's your response to that, Eric?
I'm right here. I'm actually just settling into the conversation. I joined a bit late. But yes, I know we've been talking about building a business and targeting women. My business is by default targets women a lot, but mainly because they're the ones who do a lot of community savings, because they like to support themselves, each other, by putting money together. So what we've noticed is the ones that really work are somehow the ones that have a mixture of men and women together. Men seems to make the decision that drives them fast. Women seems to drive the stickiness and the continuous usage of the product, therefore dragging the men to continue being within those communities. So I found that to be a very powerful concept within the system. So I know I'm nowadays given the name as Mama Chama, which means women savings. As I drive that a lot in my conversations on, and then how do we mix that with insurance? Because the reason they come together is to support each other. So we then give them insurance products that help them to to avoid the stress on their savings that they've made on the platform. So yes, I think women are very, as has been said over and over, they are very skeptic in adopting new solutions, because mostly I find that they are less risk averse, because losing money is more, and you know, this is a very sensitive topic. You can find yourself on the feminist end without necessarily realizing it. But yes, I think they're more sensitive to new ideas, but they are really sticky once they are convinced into idea. So like if you do your product map out, and as we have talked before, you have the early adopters of your product, who are the people who will see your product and quickly try to use it irrespective of all the problems that it has. And then you have the people who need convincing, who are then the people who come next, who then see your product and they're like, okay, this is something we can try after the early adopters have convinced them and they've seen some traction. And then you have the people who come last, who need to actually see that this works. It has been proven. People have talked about it. There's a lot of traction everywhere they turn, they see the product. And I think that's where I'd really, really place any product that you want to be able to target women as a market segment. You have to be very deliberate into building that. You must find a group of women who you can really solve that problem and iterate your solution with and test through all the tethering problems that you have. And then they will be your network marketing, because what they also do is they are very, very good at network marketing. They're very good at word of mouth. They're very good at reducing your cost of acquisition once you've been able to demonstrate and shown that there's something that can work.
Thank you very much, Eric, and just lots of insights that you've also provided, which is very similar to what Jean and Ele said. Women can become sticklers. You know, women are loyalists, and as Sophie mentioned, and what is needed is to be able to understand exactly what the pain points are, and then to be able to design a very contextualized product that they will not just be able to access, but they will be able to use comfortably. And it will be exciting to hear more of these experiences, you know, from other founders. So Chidi, can I go ahead and name names again?
Go ahead.
Okay. Just Binon. I hope I pronounced your name very well. Binon Deacon. Hello, Binon. Can you share your experience with us? So if Binon is not here, can we go to Beirut? Beirut Dara, can you share your experience?
Yeah, interesting. I was just raising my hand to share my experience.
Okay.
You know, mine is more of maybe more questions to the to like the gathering and of everyone on this call, which is like my own dilemma about the question about serving the women segment, right? So you started off from a very great point that 50.7% of I think you said population in Africa are women, right? It's a large chunk, and not just women, like women of bearing age, right? Which means probably working age. So it's a huge chunk of addressable market. However, I think like every other segment, it's like it's all around distribution and how you acquire that segment, right? So for me today, if somebody told me there's a way to acquire women more profitably, right? And that's probably the way I would be thinking about the product. So can I design a product that so many women will sign up to that I don't need to call it a woman, a female, a woman targeted product, right? It's about the problem that it solves. And similar to the reasoning with a lot of feedback is like, at the end of the day, you launch products that it may end up being 30% women uptake, right? So I think a focus on the needs of women and actually the outcome that women actually do uptake this is important when thinking about this building for this segment. But overall, the dilemma that I face is if I design a product for this target segment, right? Which means probably I am most likely offering it at a better price point because I know I'll capture a significant amount of volume. Eventually, all these addition of features, I want to make it simpler, I want to make it faster, I want to make it the thing that solves the women's problem, it probably becomes, it means additional operational costs for me as a company. So how eventually are we able to make it a profitable segment without really thinking long term, right? So if it's probably, I'm going to be offering it at most likely a discount, or maybe you can correct me, I'm saying maybe I'm thinking about it the wrong way and I should be pricing premium for the efforts. But eventually it's like, if I have a partnership with a large bunch of women distribution channel and I have access to that channel, oh yes, maybe it would work significantly. But if I don't and I have to sort of scratch and build, it then maybe becomes an unprofitable venture. So those are the kind of things I think about when generally building for different segments. I think I'm definitely, I speak for our organization, Octamile, we definitely think about the women segment, all the products that we build. We've not really built or launched any product specifically for women. But I think at some point we want to launch something like that. But it then becomes, it will not be, do we have a partner or have we built a distribution channel that has large access to women? When we plug in the product, it becomes a hit, immediately because of how we've thought about the product. So with that, I think I've said a lot of things, but just trying to put my general thoughts together here. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bero, and you're very spot on. And just to ride on what you've said, I just recently we are still working on the project Gender Smart Innovation Facility in Mozambique with FSD Mozambique, and we were working with OLAD Live and OLAD Non-Live on designing a contextualized product for women's segments. And one thing that I realized while I was at that project implementation was that as an organization, you cannot do it all alone. It takes a village to be able to serve women's segments. It takes a village, and that is going back to what you mentioned around getting a partner, getting a distribution channel. I think this is very important. And you don't ever need to get to a point where you think that you can do it all alone when it comes to serving women segments. It has to be with, who are the other partners that are thinking the same way. You can be in charge of, designing the insurance, product, but the other partner might be in charge of the distribution channel. The other part might be in charge of the communications, ensuring that the uptake of insurance, the particular insurance product and services, is high when it comes to that particular women's segment. So yes, I agree with what you said when it comes to, getting a partner that you can run with, and also ensuring that you get it mapped out. It has to be very strategic. I want to call on Vanessa Obura. Hello, Vanessa. So while we're waiting for Vanessa, it would be good to have Opeyemi Durojaye, sorry. Opeyemi, can you please share your experience with us in serving women? And, have you ever had a situation where you don't really have a lot of demand for women segments? And what have you done differently? Hi, Opeyemi. Okay, we move to Ruben. Ruben, hello, Ruben. Hello, Ruben. Okay. Chidi, maybe you have a better luck than me. Maybe you go ahead and call the names.
Yeah, I mean, and listen, Tolu, I would say if, to a certain extent, there are also some folks that you can rely on in terms of their opinions. So Pazion, I don't know if Pazion is on the call. Pazion usually has some strong opinions on these. And then Gideon is also somebody that I'll call on. It also seems like we have, Biruk, how do you say your name? Biruk Tawit. You have to keep me honest. Say it for us.
It's Bruktawit.
Biruk Tawit. Okay, all right, go ahead, Biruk Tawit, please.
So in my country perspective, in Ethiopia, to be specific, our insurance specifically focuses on health insurance currently. Now, in general, our products are generic, and we made it generic because of the fact that health in general is not a priority in my country. It's not just women or men, but it's just not a priority. Now, for women, we found that most women in rural areas prefer to discuss with their husbands. So the products they focus on are more family-based. And as such, designing a product for women only has garnered less profit. In fact, most women don't even go for it. They usually consult their husbands, and the husbands prefer products that the women prefer products that affected them as well. But we are trying to find we're trying to design products specifically for the type of women that we've recently understood that the products we design are generic for women in general. So rather, we're trying to make it specific. Like, for instance, the needs of women who run a small business and the need of a woman who's a housewife with 2 children are very different. Now, we're trying to design products specifically for this woman, but the issues we have faced is it may not garner as much profit as we'd like. And we're trying to balance a product where we're also providing an entire service for both gender or generic products, while at the same time designing products specifically for women. What we seem to face is we still haven't found a financial balance for both.
Director, can I ask you a follow-up? Do you know if the issue is that you haven't really been able to extract value, or do you think that you have your discovery process has really gotten into the root issue that may unlock some of the value that you were looking for from this audience?
And no, we do not believe we've extracted the entire value. Our discovery process was it wasn't very specific to women to begin with. It was just a project we launched for generic products, but then tried to make it for women. But now we're trying to find means to make our discovery process much more specific to women. Okay.
And I think just, for the entire group, I think that's Biruktawitz's answer is excellent, right? Which is, this is part of the reframing. This is part of the going back, the continuous work that you have to do, which is, they might have looked at this audience in a certain way, or they might have had certain questions that they asked that they focused on, certain assumptions that they focused on. And now they probably have more assumptions that they now have to go and test and validate to make sure that there are ways to extract value from this audience. And so it doesn't mean just because you're not getting what you wanted from this first go, doesn't mean that you can't reapproach it, look at things differently, maybe reframe the questions that you're trying to get answers to, and then you start to seriously unlock value. And I'll give you one very quick example, just if you guys don't mind, outside of insurance, is men's personal care products, right? So it was interesting where there was this one company that I was consulting with, and they were so focused on the men. And what they did was they kept advertising to the men and kept attacking the men in terms of, this is your product, you should use this. This is how this product will make you so much better. But what happened, and I think in Judeka might remember we talked about some of this in class, what happened was ultimately this company said, wait a minute, we're focusing on the wrong people. We should be focusing on the women that love these men, right? We should be focusing on them. These are the people who will go and buy these products for their men, right? Because the men will kind of do the whole, we're tough. We don't need all this stuff. Meanwhile, the women are the ones who have to live with them and smell them and be around them and And ultimately, the business did very, very well because they targeted these women, even though they're not necessarily the users of the products, right? So that's something that you also want to think about as we do this discovery process. Ruben, you had your hand open.
And also, Chidi, just to write on what you said, when it comes to designing for women, the truth is that it is not easy designing for women. And that is where that commitment also comes in. Once you've decided that you've identified a particular women segment that you want to serve, you have to be kind to yourself in being able to make mistakes, go back and see what actually went wrong. Did I actually understand the pain points, or did I assume the pain points? And this only happens by interacting with the market segment. It does not happen in the office. It does not happen, sitting in the boardroom. It happens on the field, interacting, engaging with the segment and understanding, okay, what is it? How did we get it wrong? And then going back, reiterating. And I think that Eric mentioned that, constantly iterating on the particular product. But Ruben has his hand up. Over to you, Ruben. Hi, Ruben. He had his hand up the other time.
Yeah, let me make sure. Let me see. Yeah, he said he cannot. Let me try and help him. Yeah.
Okay.
Let me see if I can help him.
So while we're waiting for Ruben to be unmuted, can we have another? It will be good to have Omar speak about his own experience. Hello, Omar. Hello, Omar.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on to somebody else.
Have you been able to unmute Ruben?
No, I haven't been able to do that. No. Marianne, if you can help me out, I don't know if you can. As a co-host, I don't think I can. Maybe the host can do it. But Ruben says he can't unmute.
Yeah, I think the issue is from his end.
Okay.
Probably his internet.
Maybe you should log in and log out and try to come in again. But,
yeah.
Who is having success with women? Who else is having success with the fact that they focused on women and they're seeing significant returns, or at least significant uptake or significant potential, momentum, whatever you want to call it, right? You're seeing that this is the market for you. And you're actually kind of digging in and working with this audience and going, who is having that experience right now in the group? And tell us about that. What was it about that really made it work for you? Anyone? This is one of those situations.
Eric, Jane, do you want to share your success stories with us?
Hello, maybe Babajide. Okay. It's a journey. To be honest, I think the successes I can talk about are the women we have on our platform, which we've been able to acquire quite a few. And one of the things we did that I think worked is some of the adverts we did. We took a known influencer among the women community to then clearly relate to their problems and express it in the way that they do when they meet at their meetings. So we did a video advert, and that was quite able to resonate with a lot of women, and that brought in a lot of interest. I know we also partnered with a bit of personalities in the women's sector, just to try for them to be the faces that communicate this message to the women in the way that they can relate to and they can understand. That was one of the big successes that we got out of that strategy, where we said, look, you're talking to women, let's pick women faces, let them talk in the way that they want. We'll give them what our product does, but go and say it in the actual way that women actually interact, because there's a way they do it currently. We are just providing a product that brings in governance, brings in a better way of doing what they do, and brings in the wow factor that opens more opportunities than if they did it by themselves. So that was one of the things that we thought was very successful. Secondly, is we actually visited these women over the weekends when they're having their meetings. So that's another thing that really worked for us. So every time they had their meeting, we allowed them to invite us as a company, and we'd come and listen to them, not even talk, and just listen to what it is that they're talking about, how it is that they go about their meetings, and then see how does that feature in our product, and then later we can then tell them how we think they can use our product to solve each of those segments and to even help them grow beyond the daily, because now that we observe and they see as we observe, it was more relatable in how we do it. And then, of course, it was, there's all this combination of all the activities that we've done. And then secondly, is we tried to then invite them for breakfast, either at our office or at a venue. So there's a lot of touch points that we tried to make with the women just to build the trust, to help them understand that we are not building a product in isolation, but we are actually listening to them while sitting in those meetings. So when we explain what we do, it's very relatable in nature. And therefore, it increases adoption, it builds in some trust levels. They know there's a human. They can always call at any time beyond the call center when they have an issue. So those are some of the activities that we really did and worked hard on, just to try to make sure that the product would resonate with this group of people. And then, of course, we also got a few social groups, especially on Facebook and Twitter, where women already had a lot of conversations around the problems that we are trying to solve. And they just brought all those factors together to try to make this work.
Thank you very much, Eric. It's been very insightful for you to share about your experiences. And that is one thing that we will also look out more for, particularly even as we all go to Ethiopia, when it comes to talking about these experiences, peer-to-peer learning. Ruben has been able to unmute himself, and we are very happy. Hello, Ruben. Are you able to speak? Because after you, we would then need to be rounding up. Over to you, Ruben.
Yeah, thank you very much. I think I just had a few comments around the topic that we're looking at today. And I come from Make Africa, and we design products specifically looking at smallholder segment. And initially, I think this is a learning point that we had in after research that we did. Initially, we were designing the products just looking at the, general smallholder segment. But with time, what we noticed is that there was a clear proactiveness when it comes to women attending meetings, when it comes to sensitization. So what we try to do is, because we have a structure where we have a champion leading the training. Champion in this case is a farmer who has done amazing things in the local that is she's coming from. So what we've incorporated is to try and use those champions to be able to sensitize other women within the community that she comes from. And this has given us a quite leverage when it comes to reach out to women. One thing that also we noted is that women are very good at serving. And in that case, what we try to do, or what we've done, is to customize our payment model in such a way that they can pay in small amounts over time, so that if we are targeting a season for a crop insurance product, say 6 months to come, what we do is that we will open a platform that they can actually pay in small amounts, so that within her wallet, he or she can look at how much is contributed over time. And when the season comes for the activation of the product, she has reached a certain amount that she can now use as premium. So in that, what we notice that women actually lead in this particular approach. So that has given us another mileage in terms of getting to women farmers. The other component that we've also tried to look at is commoditizing the product that we have, so that other than just using legacy products where we sell insurance using a policy document that you go out there and sell. What we've done is that we try and use cards that are similar to airtime purchase, where you scratch and insert in the phone. So what we have done is to use those cards, and it has given us a bit of mileage in terms of getting more and more village, women within that segment. So it's quite interesting. And up to now, I can say that the percentage of women to men in terms of uptake is higher compared to men. And that is something that we've noted, and it's quite interesting. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ruben, for sharing your insights on your products. And if we cannot all agree on this one thing, is that there is a strong business case to serving women, and it makes business sense to serve women, and it is profitable to serve women. And what is needed is the intentionality, the commitment to serving women. And that is why today is all about the conversations, and because it then leads us to another journey to understanding the demographics, to designing the demographics, designing for the demographics, going out there to interface with the demographics. I think it's going to be one interesting journey. But if one thing that I've heard from all the founders that have spoken today, right from the first founder that spoke about his willingness to ensure that they design his organization designed more for women, to Eric, to Jane, to Ruben, to Benro, to everyone that has spoken, is the intentionality and the commitment from their side. And it's been an interesting conversation, but it's not ending here. It's a conversation that is going to be a part of the product cycle, because we want to ensure that we are not overlooking this women segments. We are not overlooking these demographics, but right from the beginning, we are integrating gender in how you are designing. And if you design a product, how can we work together with you to integrate gender? So Sonia, Chidi, is Chidi still on the call? Can I go ahead and just end the conversation? Hi, Tonya.
Sorry, I didn't realize I was muted.
It's okay.
Yes, I wonder, did we lose Chidi?
Yes, we lost him, but we are rounding up actually.
No problem. So I think what would be great to hear from you though, Tolu, as you wrap up the call, is what happens next? So I've listened to the conversation. I'm a convert. I've my product. Maybe I'm selling into the women's segment, but maybe it wasn't deliberate. It just kind of was an accident of nature or of how we designed the product. Maybe I haven't thought of this segment as a real viable option for my business. What do we do next? So we like it, we like the conversation. What do we do next? Kind of coupled in two ways. One is, what do you recommend the founders on this call go out and do next? But secondly, how can they tap into expertise such as yours and the folks over at FSD Africa that can help them think through this segment and start offering the right products and driving accessibility and availability and affordability of products to this segment of users?
Thank you very much, Tonya. So what happens next is a deeper journey into designing for women segment. So what does it mean when, to design for women? That's step-by-step activity, you know, when it comes to holding each of the founder to get into that place where they become very comfortable in designing for women, in them understanding the, you know, in understanding the segment that they serve. And I think that that is where Utopia comes in, and that deeper dive into the product discovery, just as Chidi had mentioned. But as part of that, we are going to be having a deeper dive into an activity called, you know, designing for women segment, the step-by-step activities, and whatever sort of expertise, whatever sort of support that you need, you know, in doing this. Then on site in Ethiopia, we'll be able to provide it for you, and that's what happens next. And I'm very sure that maybe also at this point, I don't know whether Elias is still on the call to sort of also talk more about the kind of support from FSD Africa that will be available. But I know that Ethiopia is the next, and there we will look more around the systematic, you know, approach to designing for women. What needs to be done? If you have a new product, if you have an existing product, all of those stuff. Okay, over to Elias.
Right. Thank you very much, and that was a very good session. I think got serious learnings basically on how then we can mainstream gender within our business processes, but also just looking at how best we can provide solutions to women, given that they kind of do a lot in terms of managing the financial sector components. Now, you know, I think this is a very important session, and we will be looking at how best we will be able to integrate and gender mainstream various components through this particular program. We should be able to keep you in touch on ideally what we'll be focusing on, because gender is a very critical component, not only for BimaLab as a program, but generally to catalyze the entire financial sector. Women has to be brought into the question. If you maybe you've looked at various reports, including the SIGAP report, you'll be able to see that a lot of women are still unbanked. And in terms of savings, it is estimated that women are the best savers when it comes to basically within any financial setting. Women are also critical in terms of enabling or building resilience in families and also within communities. So if we can be able to align within this great resource that we'll be putting together within BimaLab, then we should be able, or not only to directly impact the financial sector, but really to give women opportunities around protecting their hard-earned resources, but also just enabling them to even really move along the financial value chain. So this is something that we'll be getting back to you guys on what kind of program that we are going to put in place to support the alignment and really mainstreaming gender. We are working closely with our other pillars within FSD Africa, including our counterparts within the pillar that is leading on gender. And basically, once we kind of come up with a structure on how then this will be delivered, then we should be able to get back to you. Something that you mentioned, you know, we are also building different pipelines around BimaLab that will address critical components that are impacting Africa, issues such as climate, issues such as SMEs, issues such as health. I know these are very critical elements that really needs to be addressed in a more clear manner. So I think we should be able to keep you guys aligned on various elements that we will be able to bring in place. So I think mine is just to basically thank our my colleague Tolu, and I know Sophie was on the call for really guiding us on this particular process. Also, I want to thank Chidi. I know maybe has dropped off, But just to
Oh, I'm back.
also,
I'm back. Sorry about that.
Didi,
I'm back.
you're back. Yeah, so I
Yes.
think we are looking forward to get all of you guys in Ethiopia. And I hope that, as we kind of go through this particular program, the key goal is, are we going to really make Africa move? That is always my number one priority. If we can be able to shake Africa within what we are doing, then we'll have a continent that will stand the test of time and can be a strong, shining example to the other continents around the world. I believe that this is a very talented team, and with all of us putting our efforts together, then we can make finance work for Africa's future. Thank you very much.
Thank you, and we hand over to Chidi.
Yeah, I'll give it to Chidi in a moment. So thank you, Elias and Tolu. I asked a very leading question of Tolu, which was that what can they do next? And the responses were both fantastic at a programmatic level. So I'm going to bully her a little bit now and ask her to give us the liberty to share her contacts with our founders, that if they want to book 30 minutes with you, just talk a little bit about some of the challenges they're facing in terms of building the right value proposition, or what, maybe some products are not getting traction. What should they be thinking about? With your permission, I'd really love the opportunity to be able to share that with our founders. Is that all right?
Yes, that is okay.
Perfect. Chidi, I'm over to you to wrap up the call. Thank you.
Thank you, Tanya and Elias. I really appreciate your comments. Tolu, this was such a great session. Look, one of the things about the work that we do in the product world, in the entrepreneurship world, is unlocking value, right? I just got into an argument on Twitter with one of my former MBA students who has a very different approach to how do you solve problems for the customers. And the argument on her part was that maybe we shouldn't be focusing so much on problems and solutions and focusing more so on market creation. But when you think about the work that we do as just market creation, then that is how audiences get neglected, okay? That is how audiences, like, especially in the gender world, women get rejected or neglected more so in our efforts to build these so-called market creating innovative type of products. The focus has to be on how do you make sure that you are addressing the proper target segments? How do you make sure that you've done the discovery work to understand who's having the problems, why they're having them, and who you should be targeting? This is how women become very, very fundamental to the conversation of building a product that your customers love, right? So this is such an important conversation. As you do your work on your discovery, as you do your work on your problem, as you do your work on even the product that you already have in market, this is a conversation that you must have with your team, that you must have with your stakeholders. Are we neglecting a very important facet of the market, right? So thank you everyone for attending. This is a great session. I really, Tolu, I look forward to meeting you and the rest of the team in Addis. This is something that we want to make sure that stays on top of mind for all of our founders as we go forward. So thank you very much, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the day. It's good to see everyone, and I'll see you next time. All right. So thank you very much, everyone. Take care.